Welcome to How to Fade Dummies Edition. Whether you're cutting your own hair or whether you're cutting a client's hair, this is a all-in-one tutorial to be able to give you those perfect fades every single time. Fading hair can be very challenging and very confusing at first. I'm going to dumb it down for you guys. Now, it doesn't matter how much you already know about fading. We're going to start off with the basics. Now, I'm going to be telling you to go open, go halfway, and go closed. This means on the lever. Now, I am going to be color coding these. Green is open, yellow is halfway, and red is closed, just so you get a better understanding of how the lever works. Now, as you are closing the lever, it will cut more and more the farther down it goes. Now, I like to think of the lever as a mirror. So whatever you do on the lever is what you're going to match on the head. When you have the lever fully open, you're going to go, all the way up. That's when you set your guidelines. When you close the lever halfway, you're going to go halfway into that guideline that you've set. And then when you close it all the way, you're just going to flick out on the bottom. So think of the lever as a mirror and match that to the head. Now, it does get more complicated the more guards you do add, but as long as you understand this, then you'll pretty much understand the rest of the fade. Now, there are 3 different types of blades out there for clippers. There are taper blades, fade blades, and wedge blades. The most common are taper blades and fade blades. Wedge blades are kind of a neutral shape that between fade and taper. I recommend starting off with a taper blade because it is more forgiving and it gives a natural scooping motion when you are fading your hair. Fade blade and a wedge blade are less forgiving whenever you are fading because it has a more straight. That basically just means you're going to have to flick out a lot more. When it comes to the trimmers, there are also 3. There are fine tooth, standard, and deep tooth T-blades. There's not really too much differentiation besides a few millimeters. For trimmer blades, I recommend using a deep tooth T-blade, which is 2 millimeters. And that's good for lineups. If you want something that is good for all around, I recommend a fine tooth T-blade, and that's the one that I have. It makes it a little bit harder for lineups, but not impossible. There are also 2 different types of levers. There are ones with notches and there are ones without. It's completely up to you. There is obviously more freedom with the no notch, but I prefer the ones with notch because it's easier, it's satisfying, and it'll stay consistent every single time. Consistency is key when you're fading hair. Now, you also do have to keep an eye for growth patterns. If certain hair is growing a certain way, you have to tilt the clippers to that certain way while still maintaining the same amount of height. I recommend using the corner of the clipper when you're doing this step. Some people think the harder you press down on the head, the more it's going to cut. It's going to look very inconsistent and choppy if you do it that way. Let the clipper do its work. Just don't apply too much pressure. I like to put the weight of the clipper on the head and let the clipper do all the work. Now let's go ahead and start off with equipment. So I'm going to show off stuff that I use and then I'll tell you what you need versus what you can get over time. All this stuff is very helpful, but it's not needed. Also, you don't need the most expensive clippers, the most expensive trimmers, It's not about the machines, it's about the barber himself, the knowledge, and, if you can actually pull through and do the job. Now, specifically for me, I did start off with the Babyless FX original, and then I upgraded recently, last year, to the Babyless FX1 with interchangeable batteries. This is not only good for multiple clients at a time, it's also just a better overall clipper. It doesn't get hot. It's really nice. I prefer the notches on a clipper rather than no notches, which is why I'm not using my other clipper right now. Just because I got used to it and it's way easier when you are blindly looking at the lever. You can easily tell where you are. I also just like the ergonomic shape of the clipper itself because it's easier to handle with or without gloves. And also for the trimmer, I am using also the Babyless FX. For the foil shaver, I am using an Andis foil shaver. However, if you have seen my previous video, I did like those Manscaped Handyman shaver. That one was really quiet and it cut really good. It's also waterproof and charges with USB-C. I also recommend getting some combs, whether it's just a regular comb or a fade comb. Try to get some of those. They're very inexpensive, so you should be able to have at least one of each. Also, get a great quality pair of scissors. Don't cheap out on the scissors because there's some certain stuff that you can do with sharper scissors that you won't be able to do on cheap pair. Also, get some hard bristle brushes. You can get a pack of this for like $5 of 6 of them or something like that. There's also one that comes with some outline stencils for lineups and stuff like that. I did buy that kit, but I'm not going to be using it in this video. Those are kind of like the main things that I always use every single time. Obviously, you can just do this with just a pair of clippers and you won't have any issues. If you're doing a self cut, I recommend to buy a 3-in-1 mirror with an LED light. Makes it way easier to see. If you are on a budget, you don't have to use the 3-in-1 mirror. You can start off with just a $5, $4 cheap mirror that you can get on Amazon or Walmart. Now for the not so important necessities. These are kind of just add-ons that I recommend. Styling razor as well as a straight edge razor. One gives you texture and one gives you sharper lines when you're doing lineups or getting rid of peach fuzz. Black gloves or just gloves in general, especially if you're doing it on yourself, you're touching your face a lot, and even if they're clean, you could easily break out and it'll just ruin your whole mood. If you want to have a good feeling after the haircut, just wear some gloves, please. Especially for other clients, you don't know where the clients have been, you know, so just wear gloves. Texturing powder or any texturing powder in general, I use Team 45. It's lasted a while. Also, you can get some enhancements, whether it's water-based or fiber-based. I use fiber-based because it is more natural. When I, want to re-add some hair basically onto my C-cups or something like that, I could do that on the fly. I don't always use enhancements, but I have it just in case. I do recommend using a neck brush as well. It's not needed, but I do recommend it as well. I would prefer the hard bristle brush over the soft brush if you're doing it on yourself. But if you're doing clients, you might need to. Also, another addition I like to use is this Briggy mini vacuum to be able to clean up my area after I finish. It's just faster than using a broom. And last but not least is a hair dryer. Yes, it is the most expensive one on the add-ons, but it does help if you do clients or if you just like to style your hair. Get a good quality one. This one was sent out to me by 7 Magic, but if you guys want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description for everything included in this video. Now, it's very important to actually take care of all of your equipment and do it the right way. Get some all-in-one spray. There's some by Babyliss and Andis, so make sure you clean them like that and apply some oil regularly. Do that for pretty much every equipment that you use on someone else's hair, or if you use it on yourself, do it every 2 to 3 haircuts. Even by cleaning the guards themselves, by putting them in soapy water or disinfectant itself, goes a long way. Now let's begin on a client haircut.
Yeah, chat, wait, that would be this big?
Oh yeah. So first we're going to start off by debulking. So there's 2 ways to set in the bald line. First, some people like to manually do it like a stencil with the clippers facing towards the client, and then some people like it faced the other way. If you do it like this, it's harder to take out the guideline. You just have to come back and flick it out like this, the flat side on the head. Specifically for the drop fades, there's a lot of curves and you want to use mostly this, like how it's going like this. You're going to use the corners as well when you're doing the curves, and then you can go ahead and turn it around and flick it the other way. I like to make sure that my palette is clean by just using a hard bristle brush, making sure to see if there's any hairs that are still not cut, so come back and cut it again. So once you have one half, I like to stop in the middle and then come on the other side and link it up. Go to the natural pattern, so where this curve goes behind the ear, you're gonna curve it like that. You're gonna stay 1/2 inch above the normal hair. And then for this part, I like to go diagonal. That way you can keep C-cups. So now what I like to do once you have the first trim, see any spots that don't look super straight or super even, come back and refine it. This part right here looks good. In the back, I have to refine that a little bit. And then this side also looks good. We have to refine this part right here. So we're gonna go back and straighten it out. You don't have to have all these different equipment when you're starting out. Eventually you can upgrade and do everything else like that. But for this cut, we are doing a skin fade. So we're gonna show you, I like to flick out and use the corners as well when you get closer to the top. All right, it's kind of hard to tell, but this is the blended side. There's no stubble. And then this is the unblended side. It has stubble and some other pieces of hair. Now for the foil shaver, we're not going all the way up to that line. We're leaving a little bit of a gap. Also, a step further, some people like to take is you use the backside like this, and you just go underneath, and you just kind of flick out. So right here on the C-cups, I like to use the corners. That way we don't attack it too much, and then we go ahead and use the full clipper after that, while still flicking out. So it already has that scooping motion. All you have to do is just flick out lightly. So right now this is lever open and we're going about 1 inch. Now one mistake I did here is I went too short on the back. I would probably push it down up about 1/2 inch more. Now when it comes to the back, you actually do want to go a little bit thicker on the back. Yeah, even though I said it in the video, I still didn't do it 1/2 inch more. So that's the mistake. All right, so that's how it's gonna look. on the first guide, make sure it's all consistent. All right, we're gonna close the lever midway. On a lever, it's just the third notch. We're gonna go halfway, and then we're gonna close it, and we're gonna use the corner. We're just attacking the bottom line right now. So if you skip the intro portion, basically we are matching the lever to the head. So right now we're going halfway into the guideline we set with all the way open, matching the lever with the head. It's gonna make the line almost disappear, not fully. So I'm going back in halfway and flicking out just before I reach the top roughly. We're not done just yet. We're gonna go ahead and close the lever, and the very faint line in between the trimmer and the open, we're gonna go ahead and flick out. You're gonna wanna make sure you don't go any higher, because then it's gonna look really choppy. Do little flicks and keep it consistent. So now that you got that first guideline done and it's fully blended out, and remember, to understand how guards work is the distance between this plastic tip right here and the actual blades when they're moving. It's not the distance between the top right here and then the blades. Yeah, sure, you have to make sure it reaches the blades themselves, but the distance is on this side right here. So don't apply too much pressure and don't apply too little. You have to make sure you keep it consistent as well. That's what I see most people doing, is they don't feed the guard all the way to where it's actually cutting, and they don't push it up as high as they need to. And make sure you are flicking out as well. Now, since he's been getting a haircut pretty regularly, I don't have to comb his hair down in order to feed the clippers to the hair. Most clients, if they haven't been with you for a while, you have to comb it down. All right, so now that we went ahead and debulked a little better, we're gonna get our 0.5, and we're gonna go ahead and keep it all the way opened, and then we're gonna do the same thing as we did with the first guard. We're not even gonna go up that much. It's only a few millimeters. You're kind of just connecting it into the top length. A 0.5 all the way opened is basically a one guard closed. You're gonna go ahead and close this halfway, and in between the lever open and this 0.5, you're gonna just flick in between. Now we're gonna close the lever, and we're just gonna go very slightly using the corners, tapping it. Now we're gonna go ahead and use the one guard. We're gonna open it all the way. All right, same thing, how we've been doing before. Close it halfway, go in the middle of the guideline using the corners, and then close it all the way and do the corners. Now the reason it looks darker back here is because his hair grows this way, and then it grows that way and this way. So we're gonna go back with probably a 0.5 to lighten it out. Open first so we don't cut too much, and then we'll close it as we need. This is called lever play. Eventually you'll catch an eye for things like this, and you'll know which guard to use, but when you're starting off, just focus on the fade. All right, now we're gonna grab our 2 guard. We're mostly just gonna be connecting it to the top of the hair now. We're gonna flick out a lot more on this. Now for back pieces like this, there's 2 methods you can use: fade comb and clippers, or fade comb and scissors. It's easier to do with clippers because you don't have to, snip every second, and this is just faster. But you basically just grab the hair like this and then angle it and then cut everything like that. Mostly you want to focus on the top. You don't want to focus on the bottom part. So you just do this. I recommend putting like a 1 guard just to safeguard, but you just do that and then just do that. So for lineups, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna go ahead and comb everything down with a brush or a comb. Place your first guide. Just make it straight and use the corners if you can. You don't wanna slit his eyebrow. And then you start off well, or the full blade, up until you reach the curve, and then you connect those 2 points. If there's any overhang, you could just go back and cut it again. All right, and then once you started that one, yeah, they're both straight. And then you can work on the sidebars now. You can use a comb or a brush to make sure you're straight like this. Just, you can follow it if you want to. All right, so this is what the cut is looking like. You can see there. We detailed it and made sure it was all even. Came out good. Now you just work on the top. Make sure everything on the bottom is like the neck. There's no hair there. And that's pretty much it. Oops. So the top will depend on obviously your client, the type of hair they have, if it's curly, wavy. The thick end of the comb. All right, that should be good now. We're gonna go ahead and blow dry it. Double check that it's the length that we need it. All right, that dried relatively pretty quick. It's still a little damp, but for the most part, we can see exactly how the hair is. We can clean this part up right here. And this is what the finished fade is looking like. Now, I've only done probably less than a dozen fades on other people, but if I keep applying these steps, I'll get better and better. And as long as you apply this method and stick to it, know what you're doing wrong in each haircut, then you'll continue to grow. All right, and if you're for the self-cut people, I'm going to be telling you some very quick tips on making you look the best possible every single time. So when you're starting off doing self-cuts, it is very, very annoying looking in the mirror, trying to get the hand motions right, being able to scoop. You have a lot more obstacles in your way. What I recommend is taking it one step at a time. So practice hand movements within a mirror with the clippers turned off, just like pretend to scoop out and all that. Just practice on that. I know it sounds dumb, but just practice that, because it'll save you in the long run. And then you can just slowly start working up. Okay, now let's start off with the self-cut itself. So we are doing a taper fade tutorial on this, like most of our videos. We're debulking first with the 1.5. It depends completely on the type of fade you're going for. Then we're going to start off with the trimmer. We are flicking out on pretty much everything we're using, especially if we're starting a new guideline. And then we're doing our clipper open, and we're flicking out. We're going about a full inch. And then we're using a 0.5. And then, like I mentioned before, we're closing the lever halfway, going halfway into that, and then closing it again and flicking out on the beginning line. Then we're going to use a 0.5. We're going to go a little bit up. We're just fading it in, basically. And then close it halfway, same thing, and then close it all the way and use the corners. So that's pretty much how that full process is. You just use that as a step ladder, and you keep going with the guards higher and higher. You can even start with just guidelines and then fade it. But this is the way I like to do it, and this is the way I've been doing it for a couple of years now. It's whatever you want to be comfortable with. You can make your own system. You can make your own guards that you like to use. That's what I really, really recommend you guys to do. Find whatever works best for you, and you'll be good. Right here on the back, it is a lot more difficult if you don't have a 3-in-1 mirror. Trust me, this thing is way, way more helpful. I do use a regular mirror to make sure it is even, so I check it out. But get a 3-in-1 mirror. It's such a game changer, especially with LED lights. I don't have one, but I'm probably gonna upgrade one soon because I have issues sometimes on the right hand side. But we're basically just doing the same things that we did on the sides, just repeated on the back, but with thicker guidelines because it is a lot more area to work with while staying under the occipital bone. And if you don't know what that is, just feel the back of your head and you'll know what I'm talking about. You're going to stay underneath that to make it look good. The crispy lineup as well. I recommend debulking just slightly on the sides for the lineups. That way you can actually get it even more of a hard guideline. And that is the finished self-taper. I've been using the same steps pretty much for about a year now. So I just keep doing it, rinse and repeat. And I'm doing also the top. I like to do point cutting, but you can do pretty much anything you want. You can flatten it out and then point cut. Cross cut is right here as well. And then you also have this feather tool that I like to use. That one's for like something quick, you don't want to do too much. You just use that, maybe clean it up a bit, and you're pretty much good. All right, and so I'm using some shave butter and this straight edge razor, we're going to apply some lubricant basically, and we're going to go ahead and start shaving the area. This is good to brighten up the skin. It removes dead skin cells. And I'm also going ahead and removing peach fuzz around my eyebrows and just like cleaning up the rest of my skin. It does help you brighten up your skin. It's basically new skin. That's all you're doing, killing old dead skin cells. This is good every once in a while. I don't recommend doing it all the time, but that's how you do that. And I also just went around the head, making sure everything is nice and crispy with the lineup and the back and the front and the sides. Now we're going to go ahead and use some Tomb 45. So I like to wet the hair first with that spray bottle just so you can actually style it before it actually locks into place. Because if you just go straight dry hair, then it's going to lock immediately and you're not going to be able to style it too fast. So I like to put a decent amount. You don't have to put a lot, but also don't apply a little bit because it's not going to work. So add a generous amount. Right now I'm starting to run out, so that's why I had to reshake it, but you just add a good amount and then you can start styling it. This adds texture, it adds volume, it helps the hair, look better, I guess. It's completely opinion based. I don't like using gel, so I use this instead. But yeah, that's the finished fade. I like tapers personally, even though I do them every week. It still looks out clean. If you want to check out any tools that are used in this video, I leave everything linked in the description. This is the hair dryer I'm using right now. It quickly dries. I showed you guys in the beginning. Now, if this tutorial was helpful, I highly recommend to save it in your playlist, like the video, do whatever you need to do, come back to this video so that way you will keep it fresh in your head and remember steps when you are fading. I'd love to see your guys' results, so tag me in your videos on Instagram or YouTube so I can see your guys' cuts. Without further ado, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. We out.